Okay, so let's get started here. I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. It's just going to be us three for right now. My name is Zena. I work with the key account sales team here at Ezoic. So some of the key things we're going to go over today is placeholders and how to set them up to ensure you're making the most. Features on the platform with our ad tester app to maximize your revenue. And settings that you could have on that could be hurting your revenue or ways that you've limited the testing. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the placeholders right now. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave it at the bottom in the Q&A. And I have Shelby also on the other end who's going to be able to manage the questions, and we'll get to them at the end. So what you guys are seeing is the dashboard that you would normally see when you sign into your Ezoic dashboard. You would go to the monetization tab here to access ad tester, which is how you're generating revenue with Ezoic. So the first thing I want to talk about is your placeholders and how you can set up your placeholders to ensure you're maximizing your revenue. The first thing is to understand how your users are engaging with your site. So for example, on a site that's currently using Ezoic, I wanted to show you the current placeholder setup. So this publisher might have users come directly from Google to their to this landing page, and this might be their top landing page. This is where most of the focus on the testing and where you should focus your attention on when you set up your placeholders to make sure you're capturing almost all of your visitors. So as a publisher, you should go in and set up all the placeholders in on your top landing pages. I usually go through the top 10, but you'd be more familiar about your site type, about what pages users go to, whether they're article pages, your home pages, or your category pages. You can also take a look at, in your big data analytics, you'll have content viewed percentage. So you can see how far users are scrolling down your site to see if you should be focusing your attention towards the bottom of the site or your bottom sidebar. So just get familiar with how your users are engaging with your site. Take a look at your user experience metrics and top landing pages. And the whole point is to make sure your placeholders are shown in the most valuable locations. So we would suggest focusing most of the optimization towards the top of the page unless your users are really engaged with your content and they scroll down to the bottom. You can also look, it's also important to make sure that each placeholder has a wide variety of sizes. So you want to make sure that an advertiser who's bidding on that location, you want to make sure that you're showing the sizes that advertisers, I'm sorry, let me repeat that. You want to make sure that you're showing enough sizes to capture all different kinds of advertisers so you can ensure you're making the most with each impression on your site. So for example, a user coming from the United States to your site, real quickly, a standard ad size might be the 728 by 90, but someone coming from Sweden, the standard ad size for an ad campaign might be 250 by 250. And this ensures that each user coming to your site is getting the ad layout chosen best for them. Another important thing that I recommend to every publisher looking to improve their revenue is to add more placeholders. So every machine learning technology loves having additional variables to test. So the more placeholders you add, the more variables you're getting the system to test and the more granular the results will be. So for example, you can see this publisher has 2 top of page locations, and that allows us to test 2 different locations for the user. And they're doing the same thing with their under second paragraph locations here. And that allows us to find out which location is specifically working. Some users might want to engage with a little more content before seeing an ad, and some users prefer to see the ad before they see all of their content. Another thing that's really important is to make sure that all of you're capturing as many locations as you can, and all of your pages are covered with placeholders. So you want to make sure that you're covering all of your categories, and even if after you set up your top landing pages, I would recommend going to a few other pages just to verify that all of them have transferred over well. So this is how you would use your placeholders to maximize your revenue. Feel free to add any questions you have in the Q&A, sorry, or the chat, and then Shelby will. So let's take a look. The next thing I wanted to talk about is ad tester features to maximize your revenue. So I have your ad tester pulled up here, and there's 3 features I specifically wanted to go over. The first feature is adaptive sizing. So going back to the placeholders, you can see that this is 300 by 600 placeholder. And when I edit it, I have the option to turn on or turn off adaptive sizing. And what this allows us to do is if the system can recognize that 2 300 by 300 or 2 different size ads could fit in this placeholder, it'll show those 2 different ads because it'll improve your revenue and it won't impact your user experience metrics. So I would recommend leaving adaptive sizing on for all of your placeholders since it results in, on average, a 20% increase in your overall revenue. Now, I'm going to be throwing a few statistics at you throughout this webinar, and they're averages, so every site's different. We'd always recommend you test it on your site yourself. You can turn it on and see how your revenue changes, and then take a look at your user experience metrics as well. Another ad tester feature to maximize your revenue, which you can find in your dashboard, this one, is anchor ads. So anchor ads is definitely something I recommend for every publisher because it has one of the largest impacts on your revenue. So this publisher currently has it off. I think they're a little bit more sensitive to the ads and they want to keep the layout a little bit more streamlined. Revenue obviously isn't a big focus for them. But if it was, we would recommend they turn off desktop, turn on the anchor ad for desktop, tablet, and mobile, especially mobile, because I know there was a question earlier about why is mobile revenue less than desktop revenue? Well, there's just less surface area to show ads on mobile. So if you can see, I can show an ad in 2 viewpoints right here on desktop. So I can show an in content and a sidebar ad, but I don't have that opportunity on mobile. So mobile revenue is always going to be less than desktop revenue, but there's definitely things you could do to maximize that. And that's one thing is turning on the anchor ad. Because I know it works really well with mobile because you're able to get those 2 ads in one viewpoint, and you're able to show an ad when there's no placeholder on that page or there's no placeholder in that viewpoint. So I mean, definitely take a look to see if you have your anchor ad turned on for your desktop, tablet, and mobile traffic. Another thing I want to go over is AI placeholders. So if you actually go into your churn Ezoic on and off settings, you have an option to turn AI placeholders on and off. And AI placeholders work mostly on mobile, and what happens is our system will automatically identify gaps in your own or our own placeholder setups. So for example, if I have a top of page and I have an under page placeholder, but I don't have any other placeholders until it hits the bottom of the page, so I don't have any in content, our AI placeholders will automatically identify that and fill it in with some in content placeholders to make sure you're maximizing your revenue on long form content. So for publishers who've set up their landing pages which are shorter than their other pages, it'll fill in those extra spaces, and it'll also improve your revenue just in case a placeholder didn't transfer over to another page. It'll fill in those gaps that way. And this also will help your revenue about 20%. I don't think I mentioned any percentages for anchor ads, but I know it really does anywhere from 30 to 50%. It'll help your mobile revenue. And then the last one is different ad types. So there's a button, if you scroll down in your monetization tab in your dashboard, there's going to show up a button for native ads. The estimated revenue increase is 10%, and native ads can show, if you have this on, native ads can show up in our display placeholders. So you can, but they usually show up, they usually work best at the bottom of the page or at the bottom of the sidebar. So our system will be able to test it and find out which works best for each user coming to your site. And And one last thing is a lot of publishers don't use this function, which I thought would be interesting. It's actually right here under optimization goals. So the goals that you have are this publisher's revenue focus, but you could be, most publishers are default set to balanced. Some prefer user experience focus because they want to improve their revenue, but they don't want to compromise user experience at the same time. And then revenue focused, we recommend for all publishers interested in improving their revenue. The system will still consider user experience metrics just because it's important for the longevity of your site. And we're looking to build long-term growth, help you build long-term growth in your revenue. So definitely don't be afraid to switch it to revenue focused if you're looking to improve your revenue and if that's your main goal. Because these tools are set for you to personalize the testing for your own needs. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is settings that you could have on in your dashboard that could be hindering your revenue. So if we go back to the monetization tab, you can notice that there's a couple of different features you can use to customize the ad testing for yourself. And this is just for publishers with different needs. But if you're looking to improve your revenue, these are some things that we would recommend with these features for you to turn off, or these are the settings that we recommend. One thing, let's go through each one. Mediation, we always recommend you link mediation, especially with AdSense. This allows us to include your own demand partners in the bidding and also allows us to incorporate them into the real-time bidding solution and ensures you're making the most for each impression on your site. So I definitely encourage all of our publishers to link AdSense because I know they perform very well on certain sites. And we'll be able to have them start competing with Google Ad Exchange and our other header bidding partners. Direct ad orders is for publishers who are serving direct ads. What I would so disable ads by page. It's important to always take a look at the pages that you're disabling ads on, just because a page could go viral, or you might be disabling a page that you could show a couple of ads on that receive a substantial amount of traffic. So if you are disabling ads on a page that sees a lot of traffic, you could be hurting your revenue, rather than if you could focus the ads, you could create a custom setup on that page to make sure there aren't too many ads showing, or within each placeholder, you could do a do not show on this page. So you could, if the goal is to limit the number of ads on the page, you can go ahead and do it other ways rather than completely disabling ads. So I would recommend going through that page if you feel like your revenue is low and taking a look at going through that app and taking a look at what pages you disabled and see if there's any opportunities to show ads on those pages or if they're receiving substantial amount of traffic. Another app that publishers sometimes use to limit the testing is the max ads per page. And you can, when you go into this app, you could do it by word count. So I think it'll be like five ads for 1,600 words. And then you could limit it to 4 ads for 800 words, and you could do 2 ads for 400 words. However, it is going to limit your revenue, just because I might go to the site and, you know, I might spend a lot of time on your site and my experience isn't impacted by ads. So you could have even shown me 7 ads and I would have never bounced. So you don't really know what opportunities you're missing when you have the max ads per page app. If you're worried about too many ads on the page, I would just take a look at the individual setup and see if there's, and I'd also take a look at your user experience metrics in big data analytics to see if there's any changes, or you could even compare it to what you originally had set up for testing Ezoic. But most of the time, publishers have been able to even show a little bit more ads with us and have their user experience metrics improve, because the testing considers both of those factors when improving your revenue. And then we're going to, also wanted to show you ad restrictions and advertiser blocker app. So these aren't used as often, but, and the ad category, actually the ad categories and advertiser blocker app. So these aren't used as often. The ad category app can block certain categories, whether it's like gambling, like whether it's sexual, or so you can block certain ads depending on the category. And this could hurt your revenue, because what if one of those one of those categories was targeting one of your users and it could have improved your revenue. So just because that ad shows up on your site, it could be because that specific user, it's targeting that specific user and not your site. So I'm always very cautious when I tell publishers to use this app because it could hinder your revenue as well. And then the advertiser blocker app allows you to block a certain advertiser. In ad exchanges, you could go ahead and target a certain site. But usually I would recommend using this only if like one of your competitors is bidding on your ad inventory and you definitely don't want them there. However, like I said, you could be missing out on an opportunity when that advertiser is willing to bid the most for that user. So these are, I think I pretty much covered everything. This is your placeholders, the features that you could use to improve your revenue, whether it's the anchor ad, the AI placeholders, and adaptive sizing. And then also I went over the settings that you could have on your site that could be hurting your revenue. So now I kind of want to open it up to the Q&A and see if you guys have any questions. So let's just. Any questions? And then I hope I answered your question about the mobile being, I mean, desktop revenue always being higher than mobile. And it's just because there's just so much more surface area on desktop and there's just so much more variety of sizes that you can test on desktop. So it's always going to be more, but I mean, even if you can always reach out to your account manager as well and they'll be able to look over your setup on mobile. Okay, so that's it for our webinar today. Thank you guys for joining us. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is zarab@ezoic.com or reach out to your account managers and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you for joining us today, guys. Bye.